The first question that I need to ask is that you give me permission to record a conversation and turn that into a podcast.
Yes, you do so at your own peril.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to this because you're one of my favorite bass players. So cool.
Thank you.
Are you ready?
Ready as it will be. Yep.
This is a podcast called Walk, Talk, Listen. An attempt to connect people and make this world a bit better by sharing opinions and experiences based on the belief that everyone's perspective is true, albeit partial. My name is Maurice Blom, and I would like to welcome you to yet another episode of Walk, Talk, Listen.
Hey, good day, everybody. This is another episode of the podcast Walk, Talk, Listen. And as always, I'm delighted with today's guest who will introduce himself. Benny, please go ahead.
Oh,
Tell something about yourself.
I'm Benny Rietveld, bass player, composer, writer, producer. I currently play with Santana, and I do a lot of my own music here at home in Los Angeles. Actually, no, Burbank.
Okay. Yeah. I walked there, actually. My first 100-mile walk, which is because this podcast is a spin-off of the walk that I did.
Right.
My first 100-mile walk was in Southern California.
Oh.
And I started in Burbank. Actually, it's a funny story because before I started the 100-mile walk, I did a training walk. Okay, it's a little bit hilly. How will that go? And it was in Burbank, but I had to go to the restroom. It's really bad. And there are all big houses and high fences with dogs. Yes. And I was, ringing the bell. Nobody opened. And so I really had to go. And maybe I can still get arrested for this story. So I did it behind a tree. And just at that moment, a policeman on a Harley Davidson passed by. And so I had to turn around. He didn't see me. And then I was finished, and I walked like 5 meters, further, and there was a portillon, a chemical toilet where I could have. So if I would have been arrested, I had no explanation because he would have said, "Why are you doing it here? You should have gone over there."
So it's funny because a lot of European countries, people would have realized, they wouldn't have to ask, why are you peeing? Because, I had to.
No, but actually in many countries it is also not allowed, actually.
Oh, really? I remember, I know
it's not enforced. It might not be enforced.
Because I remember, I know in Denmark, people could just pee freely anywhere.
What?
It seemed like it at the time.
What a beginning of a podcast.
Well, yeah.
Sorry about that. But yes, that's my experience in Burbank. Hey, Benny, you were born in Utrecht. I just told you that's very close to where I was born in Soesterberg, in the Netherlands. You were raised in Hawaii. You've played with Sheila E, you recorded Miles Davis, and now are for quite a while the musical director of Santana, right?
Yes.
So I have a lot of questions, and I think you and we have a lot in common. I mean, you have Dutch, French, Indonesian heritage.
Oh, right. Yes.
So I'm also mixed. So it's great to talk with you today. What I want to begin with, though, is can you take us back to the early period, your family, your heritage, and what was it like growing up in Honolulu, and how did those different worlds shape you?
Different worlds meaning?
Yeah, different cultures. You were when you were born in the Netherlands, then you go to,
Well, of course, we left when I was 1 year old, so I didn't have a lot of recollection about anything in Holland. But my parents spoke Dutch and some Indonesian, just like, they all did. And, but I remember they didn't want to teach us Dutch because they just I guess they were relocated to Holland, and that's why I was born there, because of the Sukarno regime, and they were in danger, so they had to, and so they got a sponsor to go, come to America. So we actually landed in Redondo Beach, California, for actually 2 years, and we lived next to a mortuary, an island mortuary. But anyway, so then we moved to Hawaii when I was 3 years old, and Hawaii was such a mixture already. You know what I mean? I think it was really great, and I think that my parents being from Indonesia, they may have liked Hawaii because it was similar to Indonesia. It was like tropical, beautiful mountains, that kind of weather. So they were there. They hung out with a lot of other Dutch. There were a surprising number of Dutch-Indonesian people in Hawaii. So we had this little subculture group, similar to what everybody does when they're transplanted, but outside of that, I was raised as a local, Hawaiian American, So, and in Hawaii, it was already quite a big melting pot of Japanese, Filipino, Chinese, Korean, Portuguese, just all kinds of people. So it all went into, at home, I was eating nasi goreng, and then, but in school, I would be, doing all the local thing, eating rice and, eggs and locomoco, and speaking pidgin, and all that, and then being part of the music community, etc. So I don't know. It was odd, I think, but it was fine, it was already culturally really mixed. So,
and you mentioned about music, so that started very early. When that,
yeah.
and was that because of your parents, or was it outside?
No. It was just me being interested. So I started around, I was 10 years old, playing piano.
You have any siblings?
I have one older brother. Yeah.
And was he playing music as well, or
no, I was a weird anomaly.
So you remember why it attracted you? To attract you to play, to start playing piano?
I was fascinated with pianos when we walked through this department store, and there was a piano there. Yeah. So they said, "Oh, well, let's get a piano and give him piano lessons." That was when I was 6. But I didn't like the lessons, and I kind of gave up. But the piano still, was in our living room for 4 more years, I guess, 3 more years. And then I think 1969, when Hey Jude by the Beatles came out. I don't know, 68 or 69. Anyway, and that has that piano intro, and for some reason that captured me, and I had a piano right there, and I said, "Well, I want to try playing that," and it was really easy. So, I really thought this is really fun, and so I kept going.
So was there a lot of music in your home?
Later on, yeah. When I got to be about 12 or 13, I met what they call a calabash cousin, another family of Dutch Indos, and they had a son, and so he became my cousin, or calabash cousin, as they say in Hawaii. And he played guitar, and his dad played guitar, So me and him, Fred, started jamming together, and I was learning music. We were checking out all the bands, Led Zeppelin and all that. And then, then we formed a band, of course. And so then, yeah, there was a lot of music in our house because his dad, Martin, anytime we'd have a party, which was often because that's Hawaii, there was always these family gatherings. And so Martin, or Timmy, as we used to call him, he brought his guitar and he would sing all night. And me and Fred would back him up all night and we just play, And yeah, there was a lot of music. And my parents did like music a lot. They just didn't play it at all.
Play it. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, who were the people or moments that made you think, hey, this is my path? I'm going to pursue this further.
People, we mean like...
Yeah, around you, or
I mean,
in
everyone
music you
just,
listen to,
encouraged it. Well, I had an uncle who was a fiddler, a country and western fiddler. So I accompanied him on the beach or, in restaurants playing, so no one actually, said you should go into music, but was those people that encouraged and said, hey, you're pretty good at this, so I think I just kind of formulated in my own mind, I don't think I made a conscious decision to go into music. It just seemed like I was already there. Yeah, so I definitely had some mentors, some really great mentors along the way. But yeah, no one specifically said you should do this, Yeah, because it was kind of self-evident to me. Like, well, it's like the only thing I can actually do really well. So,
and so when it became clear that maybe you was going into music as become a profession, what did your family think about that?
at first, they were alarmed because it was the end of high school years, and I'm ready to graduate as a senior, and the topic of conversation is, so what are you going to do? Are you going to go to college? What profession are you going to? And I had already been playing in clubs and parties and bands since I was, 12. So I said, music, I guess, because I'm already doing that. And then they got really worried, and because the only musicians they knew were drug addicts or dead, or it was just a horrible life. So I had to leave. I left home. But then they realized, oh, look, he's actually being able to make a go of this, and not ruin his life too much. And yeah, so then they came around, eventually. They never stopped supporting me in it. They were quite alarmed, so not being musicians themselves, I think that was part of it, so.
Yeah. And it's not easy to make, for many musicians to make a
it's
living.
a terrible
right?
living.
So,
I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
That's not good to hear from one of the.
Oh, it is. I mean,
somebody
it's
who's
like,
played with.
no, it's the arts. The arts are already a hard life, And the irony is that art is actually what glues life together. Everything we do, everything we see, everything we hear, everything we taste, everything we experience is held together by art, It's our life experiences. That's how, it's how we see the world. It's how we learn about ourselves. Everything is about art, and music, being the most subjective of all the art forms, the most invisible, the most ephemeral, it means that it's like it's open to so much tragedy and craziness, because it's so nobody can see it. There's no metrics to really measure anything by, yet it's the most powerful of the art forms. It's the most like it's like magic, it's like something you can't see, you can't smell, you can't taste, and that it's gone as soon as you hear it, has such a profound effect on people. That's magic, So, I think throughout history, magicians have always been revered and reviled, like to the extreme, And so that's why music is the worst of the worst kinds of lifestyles, because incredibly rewarding, like I wouldn't have had it any other way. But at the same time, it's so incredibly misunderstood that you're you're just going to get run over. Yeah, and that's nature's filtering system. If you can't, then do something else. But I tell my any students I have, like, and my son, I told him, like, if you really want to do this, that's great, and we need it. We need everybody that should play music should be playing music out there. But it's an incredibly difficult lifestyle, there's more awareness nowadays, but it's still incredibly difficult. So, sorry.
And no. Well, that's good.
No
Good to know.
flowery sentiments here.
But it's also good to hear that and I agree with that. We need more we need more musicians. We need more music. I think the world would be much better if more people would make music. So
yeah. If I was king of the United States, I would bring back music education. First of all.
Yeah.
And yeah, because even if you don't go into music as a career, playing music, the act of, even if you play one song, is so therapeutic. B, it actually, if so many studies already have shown how the act of playing music is so great for your brain. It's one of the very few activities you can do that engages both sides of your brain, both hemispheres, because you have to listen and perform and do all this crazy technical stuff, that it helps students in any of the other fields. I mean, the list is quite long of really great accomplished people in other fields that also played music, as a relaxation or as therapy or whatever. There's nothing like it, nothing like it. And yeah, everyone should be doing it, if for their own sanity.
Exactly. Hey, your main instrument is the bass. How fast did that happen? Because you started with piano, and then I understood you picked with the guitar. So when became your bass your main?
Well, like so many other bass players, by accident. It's just by me and my cousin Fred. We had a band. I was playing drums, and we had a bass player. He left, and we didn't know any other musicians except this other drummer. So I said, "Well, I guess I'll play bass and he'll play drums." And that was that.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was great fun. But that's how most bass players start. My joke is we're all failed guitar players.
Well, yeah. Well, if people have seen you play, I think they would not agree with you. So
it's always, I'm always pretty glib about it, but
yeah.
But I like it. I like it all. So
yeah. So you've gone from Hawaii to San Francisco, and then from Miles to Santana. What's the through line for you? What drives you creatively, spiritually, personally? What keeps you walking that extra mile?
Well, I literally walk an extra mile to my favorite coffee place here, actually. Just as an aside, it's a great walk, actually. It's a, pretty houses, really nice, people, flowers, and I end up at base camp, Dinette, and it's a great reward. So that's one thing. Uh, but in terms of musically, what drives me is just the sheer fun of exploring, music and feelings. I like taking people on journeys, I like seeing people ignite, I like when I see them remember who they are instead of, some automaton, yeah, I like that. I like, seeing people light up, basically. Because everyone is so dark now and, getting deader and deader inside. So when I play, whatever it is, wherever it is, whatever kind of music it is, it should be, I always want to give it everything because it's an energy exchange, and it helps people, it's medicine, So that's what drives me, I think, healing in one way,
And I heard you say now the people are dark. It's dark. Did you see that? Do you experience that when you're playing? If you compare, when you play now, let's say, in the 70s or 80s, do you think it's more dark now, the audience?
No, I mean,
Or not?
That's I think that people, it seems that way for sure. But I think it's so in our face now, because we have the capacity to see what everyone's thinking all the time, and what everyone's doing all the time, But in the 70s, there were terrible things going on in the 70s. There were terrible things going on in the 80s, There's a lot of racism. There was a lot of wars being fought, a lot of clandestine activities, there's a lot of xenophobia. It was just as much back then, perhaps, It definitely seems like it's more now, but again, I think it's maybe because we see it more, and for people my generation, a lot of this stuff is not new. Like, oh, a crooked politician, or a horrible, like, a horrible genocide somewhere. I mean, it's unfortunately not new, So we tend to be a little bit more, less freaked out by it. But yeah, I mean, that maybe the difference is the younger people, the 20 somethings, the 30 somethings, see it way more than I saw it when I was in my 20s, like so it's easy to get completely freaked out and depressed by it and all that, and there has to be an antidote to all of that, which is art, is music, one of them, anything that helps people reconnect with themselves, their own humanity, and allows them to see the connection between other people instead of the differences, which ironically social media seems to emphasize more of the differences than our similarities, which is kind of nuts. Yeah, maybe it's the same, but it's just a little bit more underlined now.
Mhm. Okay, and you find your hope definitely in the arts, and I have a couple of really music questions about you, but first I would like to piggyback on what you said in terms of connecting, right, instead of the differences. That's also what I try to do with this particular podcast. I hope I'm contributing to connecting people. We are connected. I connect you with the listeners. I'm going to connect you with the previous guest, and the previous guest has a question for you.
I would love to ask the next guest, as we walk into America 250 in 2026, again, thinking about 250 years since the signing of the U.S. Declaration of Independence. What stories might Americans lift up and elevate and remember? And what stories still need to be written as Americans to fulfill those promises? Whether you're an American or not, I think this question really matters in 2026.
I think a question matters anytime to me. Stories never end, in my opinion. The stories are always the same. It's the search for one's, soul, and it's a search for meaning, beyond, yes, okay, 250 years of, America. The story of whether that experiment will survive democracy, remains to be seen. That's one story. Who knows? Could end. We may not be capable of sustaining an actual democracy because there's too much division, not enough of a consensus, not enough people are willing to compromise, because that's part of democracy, is compromise, and we've been taught not to compromise, well, that's sort of like what a democracy is. So that's one story, but really, the stories for me are all about human stories. What drives a person, what makes them happy, what makes them sad, the cycles of life, that we all go through. We all experience these very same things, the very same stories, whether you're a guy peeing in the street in Denmark, or a guy in the trenches in Afghanistan, or here walking in Burbank, up to my favorite cafe. We have a lot of the same stories. There's birth, there's death, there's self-realization, there's like the search for meaning, finding love, family, friends, community. That's the same. Those are the stories for me. And I get that question. I don't think too much like that. Well, these days, I'm interested in like how change. How does a person change? And how, and by extension, then how does a society change, or how does a world change? It starts with people. It starts with personal stories to me. And the willingness to listen to those stories and share them. That's maybe what we're lacking. The art of listening. So maybe that's my non-answer.
It's funny that you come back to listening, because the listeners of my podcast know I've often talked about it. It's not, the name is not for nothing. Walk, talk, listen. When in the beginning of the podcast recordings, when I was editing, I realized that I had not listened during the conversation. I only heard it later, right? Because I was so busy with my own answers or, my next question. So you're absolutely
But
right
also,
there, I
well,
think.
in your case, you actually have other things to think about. You're trying to work the podcast. I get that. But in regular conversation,
Yeah.
well, people aren't listening,
Mm.
and they're not even paying attention. It's I think that's what I referred to earlier, as people are getting
Mm.
deader inside, is that you see people going through life not really even participating or even there, they're driving like nobody's on the street, or walking around. They go into stores and it's like nobody's there. They're just, and we're so preoccupied in our own stuff, and now, of course, because there's so many news, stories about some dire event, or some fake
Yeah.
news, or an AI weird story about, people are just so distracted. They don't see anybody around them. They don't see themselves. They don't see their family, really. You know, uh, you know, it could be a major problem. So
Let's continue with connecting. Your question for the next guest.
I didn't make one up yet. Let's see. I guess my next question for the next guest would be, what are you doing to help?
Okay. What are you doing to help?
And that should be a question we all ask ourselves every day. I try to, and of course, sometimes I fail. But that's what we should all be doing, and
Yeah.
it could be a simple thing, I mean, I think I mentioned to you earlier, we all do what we can. I've known people that joined the Peace Corps, and there I've, spent 6 months in Mongolia, helping, and they're designed for that, Um, I've spent my life doing music and help trying to make this world sound and feel better, in that way, Other people, they do other things. They join they become doctors, or, there's so many ways. There's an infinite number of ways that we can help, um, help our species along and develop. So that's my question. What are you doing to help?
Yeah. Okay. And then we need to listen to the next episode for the
Ooh.
answer. So I hope people will do that.
That'd be great.
Hey, yeah, exactly. Hey, Benny, if you don't mind, I have a couple of questions about Miles and Santana, and because in making your stories, actually, you got connected with two musicians that I really admire. I mean, there has been in part of my life weeks and weeks that I only listened to Miles Davis, and I told you I used to go every year to the North Sea Jazz in The Hague, only to see him play. Actually, and the rest was an extra. And it's also one of the times that I've seen you play. Now, I think you joined Miles Davis during one of his most fascinating late periods. So what did you learn from that experience?
I learned how to play music.
Mm.
That I've said this before. I consider that I relearned about how music really should be played in that band. because it required that, and actually all music requires that you be really in an oft-used phrase, in the moment. But that's where I personally learned that, that it wasn't about the notes so much as to being present at every minute that you're performing. You have to be in that moment, not thinking about, something you screwed up, or not thinking about something you're going to play, like, oh, I'm going to play this really cool thing here. I mean, it's nice to plan stuff like that, but you really should be experiencing every moment. And Miles, the reason I learned it there is because Miles seemed to have this weird radar that if you were kind of zoning out and playing automatically, he could kind of sense it, and it'd be like this laser beam, and then he'd stare at you, and they're like, oh shit, all right, it'd bring you back here in a moment, and that's what I learned, how to really play music, what, yeah. And yeah, that was it. I mean, I was okay before, but I really, if I look at my bass playing before and after, I definitely think, oh, okay, that was a marked improvement, and approach, even in, like really, superficial things like the tone and, like note choices, and feel and groove and stuff. But the main thing was, yeah, being present, in the moment.
Yeah.
That's what I learned there.
Do you, and I'm sure, of course, you still remember the first time that he asked you,
Oh,
and then you played.
yes.
I mean, you must have been extremely nervous. So how was that experience?
Well,
Or not? Or you were
well, no,
cool?
it was, yeah, and probably a lot of other people have the same. It was kind of unreal, It was almost like, because initially I got contacted by the Prince's road manager, Alan Leeds, who I knew from playing with Sheila E. And he actually called me and he said, hey, how you doing? This is after I left Sheila's band. Hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, would you be interested in playing with Miles Davis? It was like so out of the blue that I kind of thought it was a joke and it was a setup, because, but, I said, well, sure. I was whatever, 28 or 29. So, I said, yeah. So, he said, okay, well, call this guy. And it was, Miles's manager. I called him and I still thought it was a joke. Back in my mind, I thought, oh, this is, it's some kind of joke. Maybe Sheila's mad at me for leaving the band or whatever. And this is, stupid. So this guy, Gordon Meltzer, he, like, hey, so yeah, Miles is looking for a bass player, and he was you were recommended, like, really? Okay. Still a joke, okay. So we said, yeah, send a photo, and back then we had tape, a reel of a bass playing reel, I said, okay. And I put together a little demo reel of my bass playing and sent it in, and they called back and he said, well, yeah, Miles wants to talk to you. Like, really? And then I thought, well, maybe this is real. So he comes on the phone and said, hey, and and he's talking about music, um, you know, and he said, I want you to put a little, lift in the music. I was like, all right, you know, and some of it I couldn't understand. It was on the phone and his voice was all crazy. So, yeah, that was it. And
Yeah.
then Gordon comes back
Wow.
on the phone and he's like, well, okay, rehearsals are here at Santa Monica. We'll fly you down there. And so I end up there. And that was that, Then I thought, oh, yeah, I guess this is real. So,
And you played with him for a couple of
2
years,
years,
right?
yeah. And in
2 years,
fact,
yeah.
you
And
know how you have those moments of clarity? Well, I remember like about a year into playing with Miles, we were somewhere and it was some concert and I was playing, and then it hit me like a year later. I was thinking, what the hell am I doing here? I'm playing on the stage with fucking Miles Davis. And it really
yeah.
hit me then. It was like,
Uh-huh.
it was so funny, like, wow.
Yeah.
And then I realized this is crazy, So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I had to
Amazing.
get back to the music, otherwise he would have, the laser beam thing,
Yeah. In the
Yeah,
moment,
yeah.
being in the moment. Yeah. I've read, when you left, it was kind of, you told him I'm leaving, and it was just kind of a strange moment in a
Mhm.
way. Um, um, so what made you feel that it was the right next step? Because you were going to Santana, right? Santana had asked you.
Yeah, it seemed like it was time. Miles, the way Miles did it, it was like, I think he wanted people to leave when it was time,
Okay.
It seemed like, yeah, he enjoyed that. He didn't want people, it seemed like to me, I can't verify, but it seemed like he preferred that people move on when they should and not hang on just because, oh, it's a gig with Miles Davis, I think he he would just rather have, the dynamic of people's struggling to find themselves, and that's where the music is, for him. And then once they're ready, they should leave, like a he was like a sensei, really. Um, you don't hang around the dojo, after you've learned your lessons. You got to get out there in the world, and that's what I kind of got from him, So it seemed like, and uh, it seemed right, Carlos had offered me say, hey, you want to play with me? And I remember growing up with that music, so I was like, wow, yeah. So I think that was, yeah, it just seemed like I think
Right.
Miles,
Yeah.
I
Is
think
that
Miles
something?
set it up that way,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something you do now with younger musicians that are part of your
I
band?
love playing with younger musicians. Yeah. I mean, there's so much.
Yeah, but do you expect also then from them at a certain moment that they
Well,
come to a
I
conclusion?
mean,
Well,
like I'm not Miles, so,
mm,
and I don't have like this everything writing on, what I do, so, I mean, but no, in fact, I love the guys I play with. So I don't actually want them to leave, but I'm not,
okay, for the record, you cannot
yeah,
leave.
no, I mean,
Yeah.
but they do, and it's fun. And
Yeah.
that's great, but, I mean, I'm not providing that same thing that Miles provided, not by any stretch of the imagination. You know, um, that's not my purpose, in life. So, you know, um, so yeah, I don't do that. But, like I did have one really great trumpet player that it seemed like he really wanted to pursue his own thing. Um, and it was a natural, it's not like, he left my band, because it's not really a band anyway. It's just, we play a lot together. But yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, I stopped using him so much because, uh, the energy was, like, oh, I really got to craft my own thing. And, and it's great, so it all works out, if we don't think too
Mm,
much about stuff, it all works out,
okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me. I'm not going to ask you to compare Miles and Santana as individuals, but what was the difference between the musical worlds Miles created and the one Carlos nurtures?
um hmm, mostly genre, you know because there's very little difference in terms of, you know um intent. The
Mm,
intent is kind of the same, and I would imagine it's the same with any of the great iconic artists of our time. It's to, create fire, create, be passionate, you know, um, play like your life depends on it, because it does, all our lives depend on it. Uh, yeah, I mean, the genre is the only thing that's different, like Miles is much more funk R&B, you know, um, oriented, although there was so many other things thrown in a pot there. The melting pot ethos is similar. Carlos loves everything too, Um, yeah, I would just say, really superficially genre, but intent is like you always just got to show up and play your ass off, basically. Um, so they're pretty much the same, Um,
yeah. You have been with Carlos Santana for
yep,
decades now, I think, right?
almost 30 years.
Yeah, amazing. Well, what keeps the musical relationship so vibrant?
So what?
Vibrant.
Uh, that same thing, uh,
Mm.
being present, because there is no, like, oh, business as usual thing. And that will keep anything vibrant, As soon as you go on automatic, you're dead, the music's dead, or the company, whatever, everybody, and we all like the convenience of not having to work hard and not having to think. But ultimately, that's not where life lives. That's not where we, you know, that's why I keep doing things that challenge me, because that keeps me alive, you know, um, yeah, that's what just being present keeps things alive, not, no, like automatic playing, no business as usual, you know, um, yeah, that's it.
Okay. And now I'm going to ask you a question that I ask to all my guests, and it's a music question. And actually, for people who are not musicians, they consider this is the most difficult question that I
It's probably
ask
going to be
them.
difficult
I
for
don't
me
know.
too.
Let's see. So, if you have to choose a piece of music or a song that represents for a big part who you
Oh
are,
boy.
what would that piece of music or song be, and why?
Wow. Well, I told you, it's hard for me too. 'Cause I am a human being, and it might be harder because there's so many pieces of music that I love, that reflect who I am, I mean, probably any piece of music, that I like. Um, well, sure, probably more than others, but uh, as a reflection of someone's life. I think any piece of music or art that represents a journey would be maybe more appropriate. Like Leonard Bernstein's Mass is a great example of a great journey of a Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony. Yeah. Or Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Elton John. I mean, yeah, it's hard to say. Like I love so much music that. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Answer.
no, but I think for people that are not musicians themselves, they would expect from a musician maybe a song that you have written yourself.
Oh no, because sometimes songs aren't written about me; they're about other things. They're about or it's a tone poem, or it's a feeling, or it's a journey of somebody else. It's a story about something else. I mean, yeah, that would be horrible if I only wrote about myself. Hey, have you heard about me lately? No, yeah. Songs are about experiences in life and sometimes about personal experiences, but I mean, plus my life isn't over, so how can I write a song about, my life? At least not that I know of. But yeah, no, it doesn't work that way.
Fair enough. Okay.
Um,
Okay. I have two questions that I always ask if I had musicians who are a guest. And the first question is, if you have to choose between a trio, a quartet, or a quintet, what do you choose?
that sucks. I mean, by what metric? By economics within a trio, by richness of orchestration than a quintet, I mean, those kinds of questions are unfair because they're well, all kidding aside, because the metrics dictate the answer. Like, oh, how do you measure? Like, why would you? Like, why are you choosing between three? Musically, I'll always have a quintet. So,
Okay, let us build on the quintet.
Actually, I
musically.
do because my band at the Baked Potato usually has 10 or 11 people. So
well, not
Okay, not
today,
today.
not tonight. You're coming with a
Okay.
quintet, and you can build your dream band, okay, of musicians, dead or alive. Who is in it, and why, and what kind of sound would this band create? Your quintet.
That's crazy. Sorry, that's almost impossible because I mean,
Will you be on the bass?
maybe, but I have so many favorite bass players. It's like, well, I mean, Christian McBride, or like what, or Wes Stevenson, but Marcus. I mean, I don't know. I would love to have Sheryl Crow as a singer. Let's see. She's one of my all-time favorite. I love my guitar player now, Kenny Etchison. I'll take him any day. He's great. God, there's so many. I don't know. Yeah, that's a really unfair question. There really is, because there's so many great.
No, nobody will be offended. They understand that I put you under pressure.
Oh no,
here,
it's not even that. I mean, literally, I can't choose. Like, it would have to be like a special project, and I would get, I'd get Marcus Miller, and I would get maybe Cedric Moore from the Funky Knuckles. He's a great drummer. What a crazy question. It's an interesting, actually, thought experiment for sure. Yeah, and also it's hard for me because I like so many kinds of music, like it, on the one hand, I would want more of a wind quintet, you know. I'd have my friend Alan Wan, I'd have Josh Nakazawa from cello player from Hawaii, you know. So yeah, I don't know. This answer is falling apart. It's crashing and burning. Oh God. Um,
We heard definitely we heard more than 5. So maybe you can ask them all the next time you play in
uh,
the you play in the somewhere in LA, right? On a regular
Baked
basis
potato,
with
yeah.
the big potato. So we will make sure that people will check you out with not the quintet, but with
It's
your 7, 8, 9,
it's
10.
like usually actually with singers, guest singers, it's usually about 12 people, on and off. Yeah, and in fact, the next gig is December 18th, and I'm having my cello player back. She's going to school at UC Berkeley, and she's finally going to be available. So now we can do some cello pieces, So, yeah,
Nice.
I mean, my musical ethos is really just, bringing people to the circus. I always want to provide an amazing experience, sonically. So, you know, that takes all kinds of people. I mean, I have a tap dancing oboe player, so, I don't know.
Benny, we talked about Miles and Carlos, but you also have your own, musical productions going on. Is there anything that you want us to be aware of? Something that's coming up,
Yeah,
or
I'm trying to finish an album. Also, actually, I'm also I have a writing partner that we are working on a short film together. And the reason I'm getting into film is because I love movies. But also then I can hire myself as a film composer. So um, that's but yeah, so that's come, hopefully I think the script is actually we just tightened it up and finished it yesterday. So now I just got to get funding and then, put out there. I'm working on an album to get back to music. Yeah, I am trying to release another album. There's one song with actually Carlos is playing on it. So yeah, I've just got to get that together and put it out there. And then what I want to do is next year, have that same kind of band, but different places. Maybe go back to Europe and some of the smaller clubs. Go back to New York. Yeah, with a similar kind of ensemble that I have at the Big Potato, circus, if you will. Yeah.
okay, yeah, cool. We're looking forward to that for 2026. By the way, you mentioned that your son is also a
Yes, he is.
musician. So have you played already with him
He was my
live
drummer.
and or no?
I've played him for years now, for 4. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Well, he lives in New York, but he when he got interested in drums, here in LA, I said, "Great," and as we were talking, and he's learning about music, I realized that, well, God, music education is so shitty these days, in here in America anyway, um, that he's not getting the same kind of, tutelage that I got, which was playing a lot with different people, learning how to create music on the spot right there, so I decided to put a quintet, in fact, uh, together strictly so he could learn to play with real musicians and learning how to be in a moment, learning how to listen and respond and support, because the schools don't generally teach that. Not at that age. He was 14, and so it's like, oh God, I got to do something. Your dad, you got to do something. So he became my drummer for actually 6 years.
Wow.
So, and he got better and better, and there was that point where I didn't have to, coach him on stage, and he just took it and ran with it, and so, and then I thought, well, this band is fun. Let's add people, worst economic decision ever, but let's add musicians to a gig.
You should just stick to the quintet.
Yes, I
right?
know. I should have, but no. I'm too fond of horn sections and writing and arranging. So anyway,
Okay. And how did that make you feel to play with your
it was
son?
amazing. It was great. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes I was a little overly harsh with it. Oh shit, but because you it's that blurry line between being a parent and being a band leader, which is a little bit different. But overall, I mean, what an amazing feeling, once, especially seeing the development, because you always, as a parent, you always want to see that development, but then being able to experience it firsthand in the same world, is pretty cool, that's so, yeah, I mean, so I'm really, really super, super lucky, that I got to experience that. So, yeah, so it was a great fun, great bonding thing, and even if I think, for us, it's a professional matter, but even if, you're not doing it professionally, like, again, it's a great, if a dad likes jamming at home and his son does too, that's really rewarding, and then by extension, anything else, some of my friends, they're really into baseball and they play together. It's the same thing, it's so it's very gratifying. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Benny, I mean, these conversations always go too
Oh, yeah.
fast. I would really like to thank you for the
Thank-
talk. Is there any question that I did not ask you today that I should have asked you?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, you can ask, yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of your department.
Yeah.
I mean, it is your
I'm
job.
trying to put I'm trying to put it on your lap now.
That's
No,
good. That's very smart. Delegate. Yes.
No, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Your insights and your stories.
Thank you.
Keep on telling the stories, both with your instrument as well as verbally.
Well, I mean,
that's great.
I'm
Looking forward to the album.
well, I'm really. It's good, important work you're doing. So yeah, I hope you continue because we all do what we can, and however many people you can reach, great. Anything that builds connection between humans rather than walls. That's my jam.
Great. Oh, thanks a lot, and take good care.
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you, Maurice. Dank je wel.
It should be, alsjeblieft.
Thank you for listening to Walk, Talk, Listen. Please check us out on 100mile.org or follow us on Facebook or Instagram.